Chapter 21. The king overreaches himself. I got up and started downstairs. The girls' room was open as I passed, and I saw Mary Jane in there. She's been packing a trunk, getting ready to go to England, but she had stopped with a folded gown in her lap and had her face in her hands crying. I went in and asked her what was the matter. It was about the slaves, just as I expected. She said the beautiful trip to England was spoiled for her. She could never be happy again, knowing the mother and two sons would never see each other again. But they will, inside of 2 weeks, and I know it. It was out before I could think. She hugged me for joy and asked how I could know that. I saw I had said too much and was in a tight place. It looked like here was a case where truth would be better and safer than a lie. Anyway, I thought I'd chance it. Then I said, "Don't you holler. Just keep still and take it like a man. These men are not your uncles, but a couple of frauds. Regular deadbeats." It shouldered her hard, but I went right on and told her every blamed thing. From when we first met that young fool going up to the steamboat, clear through to where she flung herself into her uncle's arms at the front door and kissed him. Her eyes blazed brighter and brighter. "Come, don't waste a minute. We'll have them tarred and feathered flung into the river. But they are a tough gang, these two frauds, and I have to travel with them a little while longer, whether I want to or not. I'd rather not tell you why. If you give them away, the town will get me out of their claws, and I would be all right. But there's another person who would be in big trouble. Tell me what to do. Whatever you say, I'll do." Then I saw how maybe I could get rid of the frauds, get them jailed here, and then leave. But I didn't want to run the raft in daytime. The plan would be work till late tonight, I said. "Is there any place out of town a little ways where you could go and stay a while?" "Yes, Mr. Lothrop's." "Why?" "You go there and keep out of sight till about 11 o'clock tonight. You're not one of these leather-faced people. You can't face your uncles when they come to kiss you good morning without..." Don't. I'll go before breakfast and leave my sisters with them. The frauds might suspect something if all of you left. You go right along. I'll tell your sisters you went away for a little rest and change, and you'll be back tonight. Just let the auction go right along and don't worry. They won't be able to collect the money for everything today, and they won't leave till they get it all. If I haven't turned up by 11 o'clock tonight, it means I'm gone out of the way, and safe. Then you go out and spread the news in town about these frauds and get them jailed." "Good," she said. "I'll do it. I'll tell you how to prove these uncles are frauds. Give me a pencil and a piece of paper." I wrote on the paper, "Royal Nonsuch, Brooksville." "There, keep that, and when the court wants to find out about these people, two frauds, send up to Brooksville and tell the people there that you have the men that played the Royal Nonsuch and need some witnesses. The whole town will be down here before you can wink. Now, there's one more thing, the bag of money. Well, they've got that. It makes me feel pretty silly to think how they got that." "No, they haven't got it. I stole it from them to give it back to you. I know where I hid it, but I'm not sure it's there anymore." "Where did you hide it?" I hated to set her to thinking about her sorrow again, and I couldn't get my mouth to tell her that the corpse was in his coffin without the bag of money on his stomach. So I said, "I'd rather not tell you where I put it, but I'll write it on a piece of paper. You can read it later. Will that do?" "Oh, yes." So I wrote, I put it in the coffin. Then I folded the paper and handed it to her. She shook my hand hard and said, "Goodbye. I'm going to do just as you told me. If I don't see you again, I won't ever forget you, and I will pray for you too." And she was gone. Pray for me? She might have taken a job near her size, but I bet she tried, just the same. She was just that kind. I haven't seen her since, but I've thought of her a million times, enough for saying she would pray for me. If I thought it would ever do any good for me to pray for her, blamed if I wouldn't do it or bust. Well, Mary Jane lit out the back way. Nobody saw her go. Then I went to find Susan and Joanna and said, "What is the name of the family over on the other side of the river that you'll go see sometimes?" "There are several, but we go to Proctor's mainly." That was the name. I said, "I almost forgot it. Well, Miss Mary Jane said to tell you she's gone over there in a dreadful hurry. One of them is sick." "Which one? Hannah?" "Yes, Hannah is the very one." "What's the matter with her?" "Mumps. They had to watch her all night." "Mumps? Your granny." "They don't watch people with mumps. But this is mixed up with some other things. Measles, whooping cough, janders, brain fever. My land. What in the nation do they call it for mumps before?" Because that was what it started with. Suppose a body stumped his toe and took poison and fell down a well and broke his neck and busted his brains out. If something asked you what killed him, would you say, "Why, he stumped his toe"? "Is it catching?" asked the other sister. "Is a harrow catching? If one tooth won't catch you, another one will." "Well, I'll go to Uncle Harvey and..." Now just look at it a minute. Your Uncle Harvey is a preacher. And would a preacher deceive a steamboat clerk so as to get Miss Mary Jane aboard? You know he wouldn't. He'd say, "My niece has been exposed to mumps. We must wait 3 months before we can start to England. But we ought to tell Uncle Harvey she has gone out for a while, so he won't be uneasy about her." "Yes, she wanted you to do that," she said. "Tell Uncle Harvey I've gone over the river to see. What is the name of that rich family over there?" You must mean the Apthorpes. Yes, she said to say she had run over to ask the Apthorpes to come to the auction and buy this house. She'll be home by morning anyway. All right, they said, and went off to give their Uncle Harvey the message. Everything was all right. I judged Tom Sawyer couldn't have done it any neater himself, though of course he would have put more style into it. They held the auction in a public square that afternoon late. By and by, the thing dragged through, and everything was sold. Everything but a little old lot in the graveyard. I never saw such a giraffe as the king for wanting to swallow everything. While the auctioneer was working off the graveyard lot, comes a crowd, whooping and laughing and yelling out. Here's another set of here's to old Peter Winks. Pay your money and take your choice. They had them with a very nice-looking old gentleman and a nice-looking younger one, with his right arm in a sling. My soul, how the people yelled and laughed and kept it up. But I didn't see any joke about it, and I reckoned the Duke and the King would turn pale. But nothing of kind. The Duke never let on that he could hear a word. As for the King, he just gazed down sorrowful and on the newcomers, as if it caused him stomachache in his very heart to know such frauds could be. The old gentleman looked puzzled to death. Pretty soon, as he began to speak, and he did pronounce like an Englishman, "Gentlemen, I am Peter Wink's brother, Harvey, and this is his brother William, who can't hear or speak. We may have misfortunate, his broken arm, and our baggage was put off the boat by mistake at a town above here last night. But we are who we say we are, and in a day or two, when I get the baggage, I can prove it. Until then, I'll go to the hotel and wait." The King laughed and bawled out, "Very likely story. Lost their baggage? Ha ha ha." Everybody laughed except 3 or 4. One of these was the doctor. Another was a sharp-looking gentleman with a carpet bag. He had just come off the steamboat. He was Levi Bell, the lawyer. Another was a big, rough husky that had come along and was listening to the King now. "Say," he said to the King, "if you are Harvey Wilkes, when did you come to this town?" "The day before the funeral, friend," said the King. "How did you come?" "On the Susan Powell from Cincinnati. I live up at that point, and I saw you there that day. You come in a canoe with a boy?" The doctor spoke up. "Would you know that boy again if you saw him, Hines?" "I reckon I would, but I don't know. Why, yonder he is now," he pointed to me. The doctor said, "Neighbors, I don't know anything about the new couple, but if these two are not frauds," he pointed to the King and Dukes, "I'm an idiot. I think our duty is to look into this thing. Come along, Hines. Come along, the rest of you. We'll take these fellows to the tavern. I reckon we'll find out something before we get through." We all started. It was about sundown. The doctor led me along by the hand. He was kind enough, but he never let go of my hand.